I was always the forgotten one in my family, but now they want me back. My next decision will change everything in my life. In my family, I, 42, have always been the unnoticed child. I'm not sure how to respond to my parents' sudden desire for me to return to their lives. There is a big age difference between myself and my 5 siblings, of which I am the youngest. As a child, I frequently had the impression that my house was a parallel universe. I was just there, the quiet one, the one who didn't cause trouble, the one who was easy to forget, while my siblings were in and out of hospitals and therapy sessions all the time. One of my first memories is of returning home from school to find the house deserted. Nobody checked my schoolwork or inquired about my day. Everyone was too preoccupied with my siblings' problems to realize that I also needed to eat, so I learned to cook for myself early. I vividly remember how disappointed I was when my parents failed to remember my birthday for 3 consecutive years. They were just overwhelmed. It wasn't that they were awful people. I suppose they felt they didn't have to worry about me because they had 4 children who were coping with different health and mental health problems. I was the normal one, the healthy one. However, it's not as easy as it seems to be the normal one in a chaotic family. Throughout his childhood and adolescence, my 52-year-old oldest brother had to spend a lot of time in the hospital due to a serious chronic condition. He still has health issues and is largely dependent on our parents for assistance. Since I can remember, my 50-year-old elder sister has been in therapy or taking medicine for her early struggles with anxiety and depression. The 48-year-old twins who are the middle siblings needed special education and ongoing care due to their learning difficulties. Then there was myself, the last person to consider. The one who was supposed to comprehend, to be self-sufficient, to simply be there. It was out of need that I learned to be independent. I was essentially rearing myself by high school. I knew that grades were my ticket out, so I earned them. Not because anyone pushed me. I joined clubs and teams for the opportunity to spend as much time away from home as possible, not for the recognition. I remember one specific instance from my junior year of high school. It meant a lot to me that I had advanced to the debate state finals. I had put a lot of effort into it, practiced late into the night and given it my all. In the weeks before the finals, I mentioned it to my parents several times. I was set to go when I stepped downstairs on the morning of the event, wearing my finest attire. Frazzled as usual, my mom replied, "Oh, are you going somewhere?" as she hardly looked up from a stack of medical bills. I tried not to sound hurt as I reminded her about the debate finals. "It's today, I told you about it." She responded, "Oh right." But it was obvious that she couldn't truly recall. "All okay, good luck. We have to take your brother to his doctor's appointment, therefore your father and I are unable to attend." I swallowed the lump in my throat and nodded. Naturally, and always has been, my brother's health came before my argument. I made it to the finals by myself and finished in second. Nobody inquired about my experience when I arrived home. For weeks, the certificate I was given remained on my desk, hidden from everyone else. My getaway was college. I finally felt like I could breathe after deciding on a school on the opposite side of the nation. I made friends that didn't need to be reminded of my birthday, genuinely saw me and paid attention when I talked. M and C, 2 of them, grew to be the family I never had. MC and I made the decision to remain together after graduation. We started establishing our life after relocating to a new state that was far from any of our relatives. Determining that I made a difference, I threw myself into my career and I was successful. Now that I'm 42, my life appears to be going well. I run a skilled team as a senior marketing executive at a Fortune 500 firm, and I'm renowned for my creative problem solving and ability to perform under pressure. Ironically, I became quite good at drawing attention to myself and making things visible because I was raised invisible. Meetings, presentations, and decisions occupy my days. Even though I put in a lot of overtime, I enjoy my job because it gives me a sense of worth and purpose that I didn't have as a child. People at work pay attention to what I have to say because they see me and respect my viewpoint. I never get tired of the euphoric feeling. My life is comfortable while I'm not working. I have a small but close-knit group of friends, I travel whenever I can, and I possess a lovely condo with a view of the city skyline. My best college pals, M and C, are still my pillars of support, and I've formed other deep bonds. We host movie marathons, game evenings, and weekend brunches. I've been addressing issues of abandonment and persistent feelings of invisibility in therapy for years. Although the process has been drawn out and occasionally difficult, it has improved my understanding of who I am. I've learned to respect myself, set limits, and quit looking to those who can't give me approval. My interactions with my family have been sparse for the past 20 years, rare visits every few years, and infrequent phone calls on holidays. To shield myself from the hurt of their apathy, I kept them at arm's length rather than cutting them off entirely. Then, unexpectedly, my mother called last week. We hadn't spoken for more than a year, and our most recent contact had been a clumsy exchange of pleasantries, so I nearly didn't respond. But I had to pick it up for some reason. Without even saying hello, she continued, "We want you to come home for Thanksgiving." She sounded older and more worn out than I could recall. "You are missed by your father and me." It seemed as though someone had punched me in the stomach. "Do you miss me?" When I was growing up, where was this? When none of them appeared after I graduated from college. When I built a life for myself for 20 years. I stumbled. "I'm not sure if I'll be able to make it. Work is really busy right now, and I have plans with friends." "Are you planning with friends?" Her voice assumed that tone of remorse that I was all too familiar with from my early years. Your family is us. If you need to alter your plans, your pals will undoubtedly understand. Family seemed like a hollow term. After feeling like an afterthought my entire life, what did it mean? She went on to say, your siblings will all be here. Apparently oblivious to or choosing to disregard my reservations. To have everyone together once more would mean so much. I was filled with resentment. Is everyone back together? First of all, when had we ever been together? I couldn't recall a family meal where someone wasn't experiencing a crisis, going to therapy, or being admitted to the hospital. I finally said, I'll think about it, to put an end to the discussion. However, I knew I wasn't going as soon as I hung up. I became physically nauseous at the idea of sitting around a table and looking like we were a happy, regular family and everything was good. 1 week later, I'm still debating the choice. I had a tiny kid-like want to leave, to think that perhaps, at last they noticed me. That perhaps they wish to make amends because they regret how they treated me. However, the mature side of me, the one that has had treatment and undergone the arduous process of recovery, is more aware of this. They haven't called because they've suddenly realized how much they've been ignoring me. My siblings are still having difficulties, they are growing older, and they have come to the realization that I'm the only one with their lives in order, which is why they are phoning. I'm their fallback option, not their daughter. I can't quit thinking about it though. What if I'm mistaken? What if this is a sincere effort to get back in touch? Am I being unforgiving or overly harsh? Or am I at last defending myself and establishing sound boundaries? I thought I had dealt with the feelings that the call had evoked. More than in years, I've been thinking back on my early years. I had a dream the other night that I was back in my former bedroom, shouting loudly, but no one could hear me. I felt like that forlorn, invisible youngster again as I woke up in a cold sweat. It also has an impact on my work. I was thinking about my family when I slept off at a crucial meeting yesterday. My team took note and continued to give me worried glances. I have a reputation for being calm and attentive, yet after just one phone call, I feel like I'm losing it. After discussing it with M and C, they both believe I shouldn't go. They have personally witnessed the harm done by my family and the years it has taken me to recover. They fear that returning home will reverse all of my gains. There is nothing you owe them, M stated firmly. Don't allow them to pull you back into their drama. You've created a wonderful life for yourself. C was more tactful. Remember how long it took you to stop flinching every time the phone rang? I know it's hard, he continued. When you first started establishing limits with them, how many panic attacks did you experience? Is all that development worth the risk? I am certain that they are correct. However, that little voice of the young child who merely wanted her parents to notice and adore her is still inside of me. Perhaps this time will be different, she's whispering. They might finally be the family I've always desired this time. M and C also remind me that I have the freedom to choose, and they will be there for me no matter what. And I'm grateful for that, but it doesn't help with the decision. So here I am asking random people online for guidance. Is it improper of me to want to go? Is it selfish of me to prioritize my mental well-being over a family reunion? Or, after being ignored all my life, am I now acting in my own best interests? Even though Thanksgiving is still a few months away, I can't stop thinking about this. I'm struggling to focus at work and fall asleep. I become anxious every time my phone rings, wondering whether it's them calling again. A part of me wants to stop communicating with them, block their numbers, and carry on with my life as it has been. However, another part of me feels bad about even thinking about it. Even if they weren't particularly good parents, they are still my parents. I have no idea what to do. I'm not sure how to make sense of the difference between the accomplished, self-reliant adult I've become and the lonely, invisible child I was. I'm not sure whether I can deal with my family without becoming that frightened, abandoned young child again. What should I do, Reddit? Should I risk rehashing old wounds by attending this Thanksgiving dinner? Or should I keep my distance and possibly ruin any possibility of a reconciliation? When your parents suddenly want you in their lives after decades of ignoring you, how do you handle it? I would appreciate any guidance. I could really use an outside viewpoint because I feel like I'm drowning in uncertainty. Update 1. About 2 weeks have passed since my last post, and while I would like to claim that things have become more obvious, they have really gotten more confusing. Though recent events have taken me by surprise, I appreciate all of the support and advice. It has given me a lot to think about. First, my older brother, who has long-term health problems, called me out of the blue. It was unexpected to see his name on my caller ID because we haven't spoken face-to-face in years. I briefly believed that something horrible had occurred. His voice seemed older and more worn out than I remembered when he said, "Hey sis. Have you got a moment? We need to talk about something serious." I felt shivers down my spine at his tone. He seemed to be speaking for the entire family, and it sounded menacing. He went on, "Mom and Dad have been talking," without waiting for me to answer. As they age, they are concerned about the future and who will look after things after they are gone. A knot started to form in my stomach. I hoped I was mistaken, but I had a feeling I knew where this was going. When they can no longer care for one of the boys, they want to appoint you as their legal guardian. The boys referred to our brothers who suffered from serious illnesses. It seemed as though someone had punched me in the stomach. Protector? Me? For most of my childhood, they hardly acknowledged me as the invisible child. What? I choked out. Why me? Why now? My brother let out a deep sigh. Look, I realize this is a lot to ask, but you are the only one who is truly stable. Everyone else has their own problems. You've succeeded. You're in control of your life. They believe you to be the ideal option. What I was hearing was unbelievable. Suddenly, after years of being neglected and treated as an afterthought, I was given this enormous duty. It was like a horrible joke and it felt unreal. Have they even considered asking me about this? With a voice trembling with rage and incredulity, I demanded. Or were they just going to spring it on me at Thanksgiving? The person on the other end of the line paused for a while. When he eventually said, they were hoping to discuss it in person. I thought you should know beforehand, give you time to think about it. Consider it. How could I possibly consider being guardian of a brother that I don't really know? A sibling who has spent decades taking care of our parents. I can't do this, I replied, hardly raising my voice above a whisper. I can't just take on this duty and drop everything. My life is my own. Plans of my own. My brother remarked, I know it's a lot, in an apologetic tone. They're desperate though. They must have confidence that someone will cover for them while they are away. I sat in startled silence for what seemed like hours after we hung up. It was all so utterly ridiculous. After years of ignoring me, they now wanted to put this huge responsibility on me without even consulting me. I thought things couldn't get any more confusing, but a few days later, I got a letter from my mother. It was lengthy, meandering, and chock full of the same guilt-tripping jargon I recalled from my early years. She continued by talking about how difficult things had been for them, how much they had given up for the family, and how much they needed me right now. Near the end was the section that truly affected me. Sweetheart, we're not asking for much, she wrote. All we need to know is that someone will take care of the family while we are away. Our only hope is you. Just hope. I mean, how many times did I need them? When I was growing up, feeling unwelcome and invisible, where was there hope for me? Ever since I got that letter, I've been a complete disaster. I've struggled to focus at work and sleep. My group has observed. Meetings have had to be rescheduled because I simply cannot focus. Every part of my life is being impacted by this circumstance, and I detest it. They still have this control over me, and I detest it. For an urgent wine and venting session, I invited M and C over. On my part, they were both indignant. They can't do this to you, M exclaimed, her eyes glimmering with rage. They cannot expect you to be their safety net after ignoring you for decades. It's unfair. C remained supportive but was more measured. He added softly, you need to consider what's best for you. Not what they desire or what's best for them. What would you like? What am I looking for? It's a straightforward question, but I'm having a terrible time coming up with a response. A part of me, the young child who constantly sought her parents' favor, longs to say yes and to be the decent daughter they never thought I was. However, the mature me, who has put a lot of effort into creating a life and identity apart from my family's shadow, is yelling no. I've devoted a significant portion of my life to proving my value to them, to being noticed, to being appreciated. And they want me to sacrifice everything now that I'm at last living a life where I am respected and seen. To suspend my life. To tidy up the mess they created. I become more irate the more I consider it. I'm not being asked to join the family. They want me to be their guardian and caregiver. They want a promise that their issues would be resolved when they leave, not a relationship with me. I've made up my mind after spending hours discussing it with M and C. I will not be attending Thanksgiving. I will not act as their guardian. I refuse to allow them to drag me back into the dysfunction from which I have so desperately fled. It won't be simple, I know. I'm aware that there will be emotional manipulation and guilt trips. However, I am also aware that I am worthy of better. I should be able to live the life I have created for myself without having to deal with their disregard and demands. I will give my brother a call back tomorrow to inform him of my choice. After that, I'll send a letter to my parents outlining my reasons for not attending Thanksgiving and my inability to fulfill their wishes for me to be their guardian. Even though I know it's the correct thing to do, it will be difficult. I'm afraid. I'm depressed. I'm pleased with myself for finally putting my needs first and putting my own health ahead of their expectations, even if I still want things to be different. Thank you to everyone who left a remark on my previous post. During this trying time, your words of support and encouragement have been invaluable. After a lifetime of feeling invisible, it means more than you can imagine to feel seen and understood. After speaking with my family, I'll provide another update. Good luck to me. I suspect that I will require it. Update 2. I feel like I've aged years in a matter of weeks since my last update, which was around a month ago. My family's predicament has escalated in unexpected ways, and I'm still in shock over all that has transpired. I want to start by saying thank you to everyone who left a comment on my previous post. During a very trying period, your guidance and encouragement meant the world to me. I heeded your advice, and when I needed it most, it gave me the courage to defend myself. I declined the position of guardian for my siblings and chose not to attend Thanksgiving, as I said in my previous update. After calling my brother to inform him of my choice, I wrote a letter to my parents outlining my justifications. For a time at least, I believed that would be the end of it. I was mistaken. When I got home from work last week, my 70-year-old mother was waiting for me at the door. I was so shocked that I almost dropped my keys. She has never come to see me before. Not even when I bought my condo, when I got my major promotion, Or when I moved into my first apartment. But here she was, standing at my door as if she had every right to be there, looking older and more worn out than I remembered. "Mom," I said, barely raising my voice above a whisper. "What are you doing here?" She took a while to respond. She simply stared at me, her gaze sweeping across my face as if she had never seen me before. Perhaps she was. When she eventually stated, "We need to talk." Her tone was forceful but gentle. "It's not good for your father. The physicians say." She trailed off, tears welling up in her eyes. I experienced a little twinge of guilt. I was unaware that my dad was ill. Then I realized that I hadn't known since they hadn't informed me. Because unless they require anything from me, they never tell me anything. I inhaled deeply, bracing myself. "I'm sorry to hear that," I added, trying to sound impartial. "But I don't see what that has to do with me." My mom's eyes became wide with surprise. "He's your dad," she cried out. "How can you say that?" "Is he?" The venom in my voice surprised me as I shot back. "When has he ever acted like a father to me?" I briefly believed my mother might try to enter when she moved forward. I remained steadfast in the doorway, preventing her from entering. I wasn't going to give her access to my personal space or the life I had created for myself. "Please," she begged, her voice adopting the guilty tone I so vividly recalled from my early years. "You are necessary. I am unable to manage things on my own because your father is constantly in and out of the hospital. Your siblings." "My siblings?" I interrupted her. "My siblings always." "Mom, what about me? At what point did you need me for myself rather than what I could provide for everyone else?" She gave me the impression that I had slapped her. "That's not fair," she remarked. "You have always been cherished by us. We have always supported you." I was unable to resist. I chuckled. The sound reverberated along the deserted corridor, loud and terrible. "Are you there for me? When? You forgot my birthdays. When? When did you miss my final debate? When did you not attend my graduation from college? Please let me know exactly when you were there for me, Mom." I briefly had a surge of gratification when my mother's face crumbled. She was at last experiencing a small portion of the suffering I had endured for years. She said, "We did the best we could." With a broken voice. "You have no idea how it was to attempt to keep everyone alive and well. There was no time for it," I concluded. "For me, for her. I wasn't ill, so you didn't have time for me. Since I wasn't creating issues, due to the fact that I was invisible. For a long time the burden of decades of unsaid hurt hung between us as we stood there in quiet. When my mother eventually responded, "I'm sorry," I briefly thought she was telling the truth. "That's not how we intended to make you feel. You are loved by us. You are necessary to us. Come home please. Assist us." My eyes pricked with tears, but I blinked them away. My family has brought me enough tears. "I can't," I stated firmly. "I refuse to. Now Mom, I have a life of my own, one I created without you. I won't sacrifice that to serve as your contingency plan." "Backup plan?" she asked again, raising her voice. "Do you believe this to be that? We are your family." I answered, "No." And even I was astonished by how definitive my voice sounded. "You aren't, no longer. I decided to choose my family. My friends, who have helped me, who have stood by me, who have seen me when you had no desire to look." With a look of disbelief and hurt on her face, my mother gazed at me. She remarked, "So that's it? You're just going to turn your back on us?" I gave a headshake. "No, Mother. It's been a while since you abandoned me. I'm simply leaving at last." She didn't answer. Rather, she turned and strode off, her shoulders hunched in surrender. I was both relieved and saddened as I watched her leave. It seemed like the end of something. Possibly the loss of hope and the hope that my parents would one day see me and show me the kind of love I needed. That should be the end of it, I thought. I believed I had stated my stance clearly. However, as usual, life had other ideas. My brother called me a week following my mother's visit. His words, "My father passed away." I sat there looking at my phone, not sure if I should feel guilty, relieved or sad. The news seemed to be about a stranger rather than my own father, and I felt numb. According to my brother, the funeral is next week. Will you come? After closing my eyes and inhaling deeply, I answered, "No, I don't think I will." The other end of the line was silent for a long time. My brother finally answered, "I understand." And I was shocked to hear that he didn't sound judgmental. "Take care of yourself, sis." I sat for a while after I hung up, reflecting about my early years, my father, and our unfulfilled connection. I recognized that I no longer needed his attention and praise after reflecting on all the times I had wanted for it. I've devoted a significant portion of my life to gaining my family's affection and attention. In actuality though, I no longer require their approval. I am proud of the life I have created for myself. I have a career I'm enthusiastic about, friends who adore me and a sense of self-worth independent of other people's opinions. The passing of my father feels like the end of a chapter, a depressing one, full of unmet words and lost chances. However, it's already over, and I can't alter it. I just have to keep going. I will not be attending the funeral. Neither my mother nor my siblings will be contacted. It's not because I'm angry or spiteful. I've moved on from it. It's just that I've come to the realization that I no longer belong in that environment. I've outgrown it. I want those who might criticize me for my choice to realize that it has nothing to do with forgiveness or the lack of it. It has to do with protecting oneself. It's about realizing that sometimes walking away is the healthiest course of action and that some relationships are too damaged to be repaired. I'm no longer upset. I'm not depressed. I'm just free from the burden of unmet expectations, free from the hurt of being ignored and underappreciated, and free to live my life as I see fit without the dysfunctional shadow of my family hovering over me. I want to express my gratitude to everyone who has followed my story and provided encouragement and guidance. During one of the most trying times in my life, your comments have given me courage and consolation. You've given me the confidence to advocate for myself and put my needs ahead of those of others. My last update will be this one. I'm concentrating on my future from now on, one that I can control and that is unencumbered by the burdens of my past. In some ways, it's frightening, but it's also quite freeing. I want to let everyone know that it's acceptable to make your own decisions, especially if they are in a similar circumstance, are having trouble meeting expectations from family, or feel unnoticed or underappreciated. Even if the ties are with family, it's acceptable to leave them if they are hurting you. You are worthy of being appreciated, seen, and loved for who you are. One final time, I want to thank you all for being the encouraging group of people I never had as a child. You can never know how much your understanding and kindness have meant. Thank you for watching. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so and hit the notification bell to stay updated with more shocking real-life stories happening around you.